What's up, mortgage coach community? Dave Savage coming live with Ric Edelman. It's been 7 years, Ric, but I'm excited to have you today.
Been way too long. Good to see you, my friend.
It's good to see you. So for anyone that's been in the mortgage industry for a decade, Ric Edelman has been doing a lot of great things for the mortgage industry as a financial advisor, and even more than a decade. But I think the last interview I did was The Truth About Money. But you're not your average financial advisor. Obviously, you've got the most books. You're the most well known, but you also really understand the mortgage, and you understand asset or liabilities more than most.
I appreciate that, Dave. Yeah, my 11th book is coming out. The Truth About Money you mentioned was my first book. Now that book's 30 years ago.
Oh my God.
I've written 10, and number 11 comes out in early May, The Truth About Crypto, because that is a new and different and hugely important conversation subject for people to really understand. And you're right. I've always recognized that mortgages are an incredibly important element to personal finance, much bigger deal than most people realize, including many in the financial industry. And most consumers handle their mortgage entirely wrong. And so in The Truth About Money, I write a lot about mortgages, the correct way to handle them. And you and I have been working hard to educate Americans for decades to make sure that this big, huge expense of theirs, they're managing it all the right way.
Yeah, and I believe as much as ever, there is a financial literacy crisis in America. Do you still?
Well, there's no question about it. And I've been in this fight for decades. As you know, 4 years ago, I founded the Funding Our Future Coalition, which is now the largest coalition ever formed to help resolve America's retirement security crisis. More than 75 organizations are member of it. You can learn more at fundingourfuture.us. And you're right, we have a huge financial literacy crisis because we don't teach it in schools. Less than half of our nation's schools have any classes on personal finance. Often they're elective, and they're typically a single semester in high school when they even are offered. It's the last great subject that is a taboo topic in America, money. We'll talk at the dinner table with kids about religion, politics, drugs, sex. We won't talk about money. And so we grow up financially illiterate. We're not taught in schools. Mom and dad tell us nothing. Our employers don't teach us anything. And as a result, when we face key financial decisions, we're ill-equipped to make good ones. And a mortgage is about as key a financial decision as you'll ever make.
Yeah, and you said it right. Most even loan officers don't realize what a strategic financial planning decision it can be. And
right.
looking at all liabilities and making sure that when you're looking at all of liabilities, you're looking at the cost of those over time. And then guys, you always got to be looking at strategies. And what Ric will tell you, sometimes the bigger mortgage and investing the difference with the right financial advisor is going to create financial wealth faster over time. And so if you're a loan officer and you're not helping a family, see different loan options, cost over time, looking at strategies to invest that money with a financial advisor, many times you're losing loans because you're not delivering advice, but you're not helping families become more financially literate through the sales process.
You're not only losing loans, you're ending up with smaller loans. I mean, let's face it, mortgage brokers are paid based on the size of the loan. So it's in your best interest to have a big mortgage. And here's the crazy good news. It's equally in the best interest of the home buyer to get a big, long mortgage. You don't want to be paying cash for that house. You don't want to be going with a massive down payment. You actually are better off buying a house with a big, long mortgage and never paying it off. And that is something that most people don't understand, which means you are in the business of doing well by doing good. The more effectively you're able to persuade your clients and customers to get a big, long mortgage, not only do you make more money, but more importantly, you're improving their financial lives at the same time. Ain't America great?
Yeah, and that's the thing, guys. We need to reframe liabilities and mortgage decisions for families so that they realize it's not about lowest rate, it's about fastest freedom point. And what's that freedom point? That freedom point is when you have enough money in the bank to where paying off your mortgage is a strategic financial planning decision, or whatever that client's goal is. Well, let's get to the topic at hand, Ric. One of the other things I'm pushing are, we've now got over 16,000 mortgage coaches that are financially literate, that are using financial literacy and borrower education as a competitive advantage. And this year, I'm pushing them to go out to high schools, like partner with a CPA, financial planner, and go out and do financial literacy training in high schools. So I'm trying to arm our this network of America's best loan officers who win with education to go out and bring it to the next generation.
That's awesome. Because those kids, those high school kids will take it home to their parents.
Yeah. Oh, hey, it's good. You're helping them, but yeah, you're going to get some loans from the parents and you're going to get some loans from the teachers.
I mentioned that my new book, The Truth About Crypto, is coming out. And we all know how most adults are learning about Bitcoin from their teenagers.
Right.
So if you think that you're wasting your time teaching kids, or that it's strictly a philanthropic activity, you will discover business benefits by helping out in the community. This is, again, what makes America the best country in the world, is that we know that community service, philanthropy, charity, giving to others, the more you give, the more you get. And so, yeah, I strongly support, Dave, your notion of your legion of mortgage professionals to get into the schools, get into the communities with this content and knowledge. You'll be changing people's lives in immeasurable ways for decades to come.
Well, thank you. And thank you for making time to bring this. So, Ric, I want you to put on like you're the teacher's teacher. And so we've got, thousands of mortgage professionals that are going to go out and position themselves in high schools and do financial literacy training. While they're going to teach on a lot of topics, and I recommend, guys, that you read all of Ric's books, listen to my interviews with him. But today it's all about crypto, like why crypto, how crypto. Now, when did you start investing in digital assets, and what was your story around that?
I was first introduced to crypto in 2012. The Bitcoin was pretty new back then. And when I first heard about it, my reaction was the same as everybody's. Huh? What? It made no sense. Digital money, not offered by a government. It made no sense to me, but I was intrigued. And so I wanted to learn more. So I spent much of 2013 doing a deep dive, going down that rabbit hole, talking with a lot of folks, doing a lot of research, and pretty quickly concluded that this innovation is the most important, significant innovation for global commerce since the invention of the internet, and that most people weren't aware of that fact, not only consumers, but also financial advisors. And so for the past decade, I've been on a mission to teach about this subject. I created 4 years ago the Digital Assets Council of Financial Professionals, the logo behind me. And that's where I'm devoting all of my energies these days, helping consumers and financial advisors understand this new asset class and figure out its role in a diversified portfolio, because this kind of investment opportunity only comes along once in a lifetime, and I don't want people to miss it. Dave, you're on mute.
Thanks, Ric. Sorry about that. So I think I already know the answer to this because you're an author, but like, I know when an author like you decides to write a book, there's a lot behind it. There's a lot of intention behind that. What's all the intention around the book, and what do you want to see happen with that book over the next, 12 months as it's released into the wild?
Well, we need to have people understand the nature of this new technology. Our world is changing at a very rapid clip because of exponential technologies. That was the basis of my last book, number 10, The Truth About Your Future. We are developing technological innovations at an astonishing speed. And we're all pretty familiar with what's going on: artificial intelligence, robotics, self-driving cars, 3D printing, big data, nanotech, biotech, bioinformatics, fintech, edtech, agritech, blockchain, and digital assets. These are all brand new things that didn't exist 20 years ago, because computers are getting faster, they're getting cheaper, they're getting smaller. And as a result, we're able to develop applications in computer technology that never existed before. And it's revolutionizing how we live our lives. It's hard to remember that smartphone you held in your hand didn't exist 15 years ago. It's really astonishing the speed with which we're developing things. That smartphone has more computing power in it than the space shuttle did. And it's because of the advent of this technology that we're changing how we do things. One quick statistic, by the end of this decade, 70% of the global economy will be digital. And
Wow.
that means we're going to be living with digital money. And we need to understand this. I mean, you're already using credit cards and debit cards, PayPal, Zelle, Venmo. When's the last time you used cash to pay for something? Well, we're going to be moving more and more of our lives online. We're already buying at Amazon, and we're not using cash for that purpose. We're going to need to understand what life is like in a digital world. The metaverse is coming. We've got NFTs. We've got Bitcoin and other digital assets. What does all this mean? Not only for our investment strategy, but even for our careers. That's what my book, The Truth About Crypto, is all about. The sooner you understand this technology, the sooner you understand the impact it's going to have on your life, the sooner you're going to be able to capitalize on it and enjoy the economic rewards from it. Think back. Don't you regret today that you didn't buy Amazon and Apple and Microsoft when they were brand new in the 1990s? Don't you regret that? Here's where we are today with the same opportunity, with brand new companies you never heard of, creating investment opportunities that are unprecedented in our lifetimes.
So I want to get your opinion on a few slides that I use in my keynote all the time, and then, drill down on crypto. But, we talk a lot about the digital age shift, and you just said it, like this is when it happened. In 2007, when Steve Jobs pulled this up, it changed real estate, it changed mortgage, and it changed every part of our life. And I believe we're in what I call the digital age shift.
Right.
And we're in this place right now where consumers have a lot of platforms and disparate technologies when buying homes, when getting loans, and professionals as advisors. We've got a lot of different logins and a lot of different platforms. And this might be a slight exaggeration, but the point is there's this unification digitally, and consumers are going to have less logins. Professionals are going to have less logins. Now, I picked 2027. My logic around this was it's 2 cycles of Moore's law. Moore's law says that every decade technology accelerates by 50 years. And so I figured 2 Moore's cycles and the world's different. My question to you is, do you align on 2027? Do you think it's going to be a little sooner, a little later? I'd just love your opinion.
Well, quite frankly, Dave, so what if you're a year off?
Well, I know. Yeah, right.
So I think you're going to prove to be pretty close. And blockchain technology is the key driver for all of this, because what's going on in this scenario is that blockchain technology, which is the basis for which Bitcoin is allowed to exist, and Ethereum and NFTs and the metaverse, everything is based on this new blockchain technology. This technology is so revolutionary, so innovative, that it changes the way commerce operates, such as the chart you just wonderfully showed. Let me illustrate this. We currently operate in the trust economy. This is the way it's been done for thousands of years. When you help somebody buy a house, the buyer and the seller want to agree on the transaction, and they have to trust each other. The problem is trust only goes so far. The buyer really doesn't trust the seller all that much, so they hire a title settlement company to do a title search. And then they pay for title insurance. They add months and thousands of dollars to the transaction because trust only goes so far. Ronald Reagan said it, right? Trust but verify. Blockchain technology eliminates the need for trust because the transactions are now cryptographically authenticated. They are proven. I don't have to believe you when you tell me you have free and clear access to the title of a deed. It's proven on the internet, and it's done in an open, distributed database that anybody in the world can see. That's free to access, free to use. By eliminating the need for trust, because we're using cryptographic proof, I can skip the title settlement process. I don't need a title search. I don't need to do title insurance. All of a sudden, when you buy the house, you can settle on the house same day, instantaneously. It'll be as fast as buying a loaf of bread at a grocer where same day settlement occurs. And this changes everything. It changes the speed with which you'll be able to obtain mortgages, the speed with which you'll be able to close loans. And when you take somebody for a virtual tour of that property and they say they want to buy it, you will click buy like you do at Amazon. And bam, they'll be automatically approved the mortgage. You'll be able to settle on the transaction instantaneously. And your ability to execute this with speed, authenticity, cybersecurity, and total transparency is something that no one has ever been able to have before. It'll be a new way you'll do business that'll be faster and cheaper and safer, and you'll do more business than ever because the friction will go away. The ability to execute transactions will be better and easier than ever. And you need to learn about what's coming so that you're not obsolete in the next 5 years.
Well, and I think it also makes a point where being an advisor, like it's a competitive advantage today, guys, like giving a family a fee worksheet, that is a commodity experience, rate, payment, cash to close. The machine can do that. And someday the machine's going to be able to close. You've got to give a family a digital experience that has transparency and obvious value.
So let's explain why, Dave, because this is a really, really key point why this matters. And I can apply this in my industry, in the financial services industry. This will make a lot of sense for you in the mortgage business too. 30 years ago, if you wanted to find out the price of a stock, you had to call your stockbroker on the phone to find out. What's IBM trading for? You had to call the broker on the phone. And brokerage firms, those of you old enough to remember, brokerage firms had really big lobbies because their customers would sit in the lobby for hours and there was a ticker running across the ceiling where they could watch the stock prices. The only way to know in real time what Wall Street is doing is literally by sitting there. It's kind of what we do now with a sports book in Vegas. The only way
I used to do that with my grandpa. That was one of his things. We'd go by the place where, he did it, and we'd watch stock tickers and he'd read the paper and make notes.
But then technology grew and stock prices were available on television and then on your phone, but they were 15-minute delayed. So you still had to call your broker for the real-time data because your data was 15 minutes old. Nowadays, of course, on our telephones, this data is real-time and it's free, which means there's no value in a broker who's quoting stock prices. You don't need a broker for that. You don't need a broker to execute a trade because you can press a button and buy stocks commission free at any discount brokerage firm in the country. So does that mean brokers are obsolete and they're all out of business? No, of course not. Brokers are more valuable than ever. Why? To the point, Dave, that you gave. Instead of being the accumulators of data, we are now the analysts of data. We're now the interpreters, helping our clients understand which bits of data are relevant to my situation. How can I take this data and use it to my best interests? How do I analyze it? How do I parse it? How do I decipher it? How do I apply it to my circumstance? That's what mortgage brokers are going to be doing in the future. The data will be available everywhere like it already is. What houses are available on the market? What are the price points of those houses? What are mortgage interest rates these days? What are the points I'd have to pay? That's just data. There's no value in providing that data to the client. The value is in helping the client figure it all out. Better yet, doing it for them so they don't have to do it themselves. And if you can master that element, you will be extraordinarily successful in your business.
Well, mortgage coach community, the good news is you guys all have this beautiful digital platform. It's got your picture, it's got your brand. You can integrate a video and it shows it takes all the data and then puts it in an easily digestible format, showing the transactional cost And remember, guys, going beyond the transaction, showing people what that means over time, monthly, over 60 months, and over a midterm period. So the good news is, Rick, this community has that. Now we need to get your book in hands of everyone, and we also need to make sure that they're armed with some financial literacy training at high schools. So obviously, I think the young generation gets it, but like, should everybody be investing? And how much? And I know you're not going to tell me what percentage of my portfolio I should be doing it without tailoring it, but give us some guidelines on, should we all be doing it, and how much? What are some ranges?
Yeah, actually, I will give you some specifics, Dave, because it's an incredibly simple conversation. Unlike the rest of personal finance, the crypto conversation is remarkably simple and easy. It's not hard to get your arms around this at all. That's why I wrote the book. I mean, once you read my book, The Truth About Crypto, you'll be amazed at how many aha moments you have and how much you're able to say, oh, this makes perfect sense, or I understand this better than I thought, because the new terminology and the new methodologies, they're just really evolutions of things you know all about. You just need to be given the context in the crypto conversation. So the bottom line is this. This has gone mainstream. There are now 300 million people in the world who own Bitcoin. There's 7 billion on the planet. And because Bitcoin has a limited supply, it is a classic supply-demand conversation. Meaning the more people who want to buy it, the price has to keep going up, because it's really that simple. So even though there's only 300 million who own it, out of 7 billion on the planet, imagine what happens when that number doubles or triples or quadruples. This is a big reason why people believe this is still very early in the marketplace. So how much should you allocate? I'll give you 3 answers. One is that, and this is surprising to a lot of people, you really don't need to allocate very much. 1 to 5% of assets is plenty, low single digits. Now, ordinarily, when I talk about that with people, they're surprised to hear that, because you're used to investing a big portion of your portfolio into the stock market or the bond market or the real estate market. We know that if we don't have a meaningful allocation, there's really no point to doing it. But crypto's different. It's a brand new asset class, the first new asset class in 150 years, and it operates unlike any other asset class you've ever experienced. It has nothing in common with stocks or bonds or real estate or gold or oil or anything else. Meaning, history tells us over the 12-year life of Bitcoin that a very small 1% allocation is all that it takes to have a meaningful impact on your portfolio. And because Bitcoin is still a very volatile investment, you don't want to take an outsized risk. If you do a 1 or 2% allocation, your downside risk is minimal, but the upside return is significant. And so a mere 1 or 2 or 3% allocation, Dave, is all it really needs. Now, I'd recommend one of 3 portfolios for you. Just Bitcoin, call it a day. Bitcoin is half of the total crypto marketplace. It's the market leader. It's the first. It's the biggest. It's the best known. It's the one getting all the institutional adoption by hedge funds, institutional investors like endowments, pension funds, Wall Street, Fortune 500 companies. Just do Bitcoin, call it a day. You'll be directionally correct. If you want, you can add the second biggest coin, Ethereum, which is used in global commerce to a bigger degree than Bitcoin. Do a combination of Bitcoin and Ethereum and you're finished. If you want a more diversified approach, I'm a big fan of the Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund. It's an investment of the 10 largest digital assets by asset class. I'm an investor in Bitwise. I'm a big fan of theirs. And I also own the Bitwise 10 fund. The symbol is BITW. So one of those 3 approaches, Dave, Bitcoin only, Bitcoin plus Ethereum, or BITW, and keep your investments somewhere between 1 and 5% of your portfolio.
So there's a lot of places to get Bitcoin now. I mean, you can get it on Robinhood. You can get it on, I think, PayPal. I think on my PayPal app. I could go on. I mean, there's just a lot of different places to get it, to buy it, to store it. What are the best ones in your opinion? And is there any gotchas? Hey, don't do this.
So there are so many different platforms now. In fact, at DACFP, if you go to our website at dacfp.com, DACFP, we have a yellow pages. It's free to use, and it's a comprehensive list of all the different places that you can buy crypto and all the different ways that you can do it. And I would say that the way you should do it is the way that you like to buy investments. In other words, some people like to buy stocks. Others like to buy stock funds. Some like to buy ETFs. Some like to invest in futures and options trading. However you like to do it, there's a platform available for you in the world of crypto. You can go to a site like Coinbase or Robinhood and buy Bitcoin or Ethereum and a bunch of other coins directly. If you prefer, you can buy an ETF. There are dozens of ETFs that invest in companies that are in the crypto infrastructure. They're not buying Bitcoin directly. They're buying, you're building the infrastructure, the companies that are helping the technological development. So any which way you want to do it, there are different approaches. My book, The Truth About Crypto, explains all of these in great detail, so you can decide which approach you like best, whether you want a hands-on approach, get involved in Bitcoin mining, or whether you want a hands-off, simple and easy, buy an ETF. However you want to do it, there are lots of ways to accommodate your preference.
So I have another question that I came prepared with that actually my wife helped me with this one, but then I also have a couple rapid fires that the audience is shooting in. But you hear a lot of stories about people losing money, getting hacked. What do you say to all that?
Yeah, it's true. There's no question that with the excitement of what's going on in the crypto space, crooks have emerged. And that's true in the stock market, the bond market, the real estate market. We all heard about Bernie Madoff in the stock market. You're all familiar as real estate experts of the scams that occur in real estate. You've got to have your guard up. And this is why you should be dealing with reputable organizations and reputable financial advisors who can counsel you. In fact, at our site at DACFP, we have an advisor directory. This is a group of hundreds of financial advisors who have attained their certificate in blockchain and digital assets, my seal of approval, demonstrating their knowledge in this space. And this way, you dramatically reduce the likelihood that you're going to get caught up in a scam or a fraud. Use the same common sense that you apply to any investment. Watch out for slick sales pitches, promises of get rich quick overnight nonsense. It's easy to avoid the frauds. Just don't get carried away.
Love it. So I know we got to wrap it up soon, but I just got to get a couple more questions in. Sure. Is it, people talk a lot about the government and the government banning Bitcoin. I don't know if that's just, a story, but it's come up. What are your thoughts on that?
There used to be very real concerns about that, but those have all been laid to rest. And very recently too, about a month ago, President Biden issued the first executive order from the White House on crypto. Barack Obama never did it. Donald Trump never did it. They didn't have to. Crypto was still very new, but crypto's gone mainstream. And so President Biden issued this executive order calling on the federal government to bring together the full resources of the executive branch to foster the innovation and development of digital assets, including a central bank digital currency, a CBDC. Elizabeth Warren, who a year ago hated crypto, said that it was like spinning gold out of straw. 3 weeks ago said it's time for the government to create a digital currency. Janet Yellen, who is the Secretary of the Treasury, a year ago said that Bitcoin was only used for illicit activity by crooks. Now, 3 weeks ago, she gave a speech and called this technology transformative. The Federal Reserve has established the first chief innovation officer to develop a central bank digital currency. There's now a congressional blockchain caucus. 39 members of Congress are now members of the blockchain caucus. State governments are falling over themselves to develop and welcome digital assets into their states. The mayor of Miami and the mayor of New York are taking their salaries in Bitcoin. It's no longer a concern that governments are going to ban it. Instead, they recognize this is the future. They're racing to develop it ahead of other countries, and they're welcoming companies in the crypto space to come local because of all the jobs that it brings. Don't fear that the government's going to ban it. Instead, they have acknowledged that they're embracing it.
So guys, I think we have pulled out a tremendous amount of content that would give you the confidence to go into a high school, partner with a financial planner that's savvy on this kind of stuff. Ric told you a website to go and check it out. Of course, make sure you read the book. I would even buy copies of the book, Ric. I mean, I know that it's coming out next week and people can get it on Amazon, but if we had mortgage coaches that wanted to buy a case of this, because I think this would also be a great piece of education for all you mortgage coaches to bring it to realtors, to have this conversation around financial literacy. And there's no doubt digital assets in crypto are part of financial literacy in the modern world. Where could they get like a case? Is it just buy a case worth online, or can they get some signed copies or some cases somewhere else?
So if you're interested in a bulk sale, the publisher Simon & Schuster can make bulk sales available in very large quantity, typically 1,000 copies or more, which is beyond the interest of most folks. So if you wanted to get a case, you could simply do so at Amazon. The good news is the book is only $20 because it's in paperback at Amazon. And if you go to your local bookseller, I am pretty confident that if you told them you wanted a case, that they would provide you a discount. And supporting your local bookseller is always great for your local community, instead of the big behemoths of Barnes and Nobles and Amazon. So go to your local bookseller, tell them you want to buy a case, and I'll bet you can get a discount from them. Right
on. Well, guys, I think buy a case, buy a bunch of these, bring this message to your community. Be prepared to have better conversations with your consumer. Ric, is there any questions I didn't ask, or closing thoughts that you want to make sure you leave the audience with?
I think you've got it, Dave. I can't emphasize enough the importance that we're focusing on the future, that saying that, hey, I've been running a good business for many years has gotten me to this point and that I can coast. That's simply not true anymore because of the advent of technological innovation. The advice and counseling and coaching that you're providing here, Dave, at the Mortgage Coach is unprecedented, unparalleled, and the quicker and sooner people listen to the message you're conveying and follow the training that you're providing, the more successful they're going to be and the better off their customers are going to be as well.
So guys, anyone listening to this, I want you to really go back and audit yourself. Are you a loan officer that sells loans that can do transactions? Or are you someone that is bringing financial literacy to the consumers that you support, and you're helping them make more informed choices? That's what we're all about here in this community. If you got value from this conversation, give it a like, share it with your mortgage friends. And maybe I can hopefully get Ric to come back, and maybe after the book is out, we can do an actual teach with your book how to do a high school financial literacy training. You'd be interested in that?
Yeah, that'd be great, Dave. I'd be happy to. And one of the important things to make sure everybody realizes, because you mentioned it early on in our conversation, my book, The Truth About Money, has in it my 11 great reasons for carrying a big, long mortgage. This is a huge business building tool. You don't have to convince or persuade your client to do this. All you got to do is tell them that Ric Edelman, the nation's ranked 3 times the #1 financial advisor in the country, endorses the idea of a big, long mortgage with 11 great reasons why. That book is a tremendous tool for you in your efforts to educate consumers, and it's readily available to you at any bookseller. So The Truth About Crypto and The Truth About Money.
I couldn't agree more. So guys, check it out. We'll put links down below. This call is a wrap. Have a great day, everybody.